And welcome back. So many banks say that they want innovation, but why do so many promising fintech deals still never make it to the end? My next guest has seen this problem from every side. He's worked with banks inside, he's scaled fintechs, and he's also advised regulatory deals. So now he is working and trying to invest in technology companies, trying to sell themselves back into the system they once worked in. So Michael Lachlan, he is the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador for MENA Fintech Association and a managing partner at Aeronautic Ventures. Michael, thanks so much for joining us again. And definitely a very interesting topic. And we were talking off camera about just fintech deals, the banks, and just pretty much how innovation kicks off and how every bank tries to say that they're innovating, but yet we still have this situation going on. So banks consistently say that they want innovation. So why do so many promising fintech deals still go nowhere?
Well, good morning. I think it's a great topic. It's very topical. Let's just say right now. I think getting that first meeting is the technology problem. That's what gets you in the door. But actually getting the contract is the biggest issue right now. Actually getting to that next stage. So the person that loves your demo, if you're a startup and you're the fintech, you're getting into the bank, you get inside. The person who actually enjoys your demo is not often going to be your champion to help it graduate beyond that demo. So I think that's one of the issues. So back to the earlier point, the technology problem gets you in the door. You've identified a problem. You have a suggested solution. The bank listens, but actually getting the contract, that's when it gets a little bit tricky.
So let's talk a little bit about the breakdown. So
Right.
where do these deals usually just stop, break? Is it the ownership? Is it integration? Is it compliance? Like, where do you see the biggest problem right now is?
So shiny things will always grab people's attention, but if you don't have a clear business owner, I mean, outside of an innovation hub, a business owner, a champion, someone who's actually going to fly your flag in the institution, that's usually where it breaks down. Or if the business case isn't real enough, isn't impactful enough, that's often another way. And if you get it wrong, if you just do a pilot and you feel that this is your entry point, the Trojan horse to land and expand within the institution, what can happen is that it's just an expensive demonstration which can eat into your cash flow as the fintech, as the startup, and then that drags time away from other sales you could be doing elsewhere. So it's a tricky balance. It's a big judgment call, and often being able to say you're in a large bank, having these discussions is just the first step. Being able to filter out where's the noise, where's the real sponsorship, that's the key.
So this next question. It always blows my mind because I think founders and people that want to start a fintech, they have an idea of presentation and what presenting to a bank actually look like. So, what do founders often misunderstand about selling to banks specifically?
Well, it's not all doom and gloom, all right? If you have an idea, it's fantastic. And if the idea is solving a real world problem, real in this case to the banks, that's a really positive thing. But many founders go to banks selling features, right? Not end-to-end solutions. And really banks, they don't necessarily want features. They might want to learn about them, so an educational roadshow. But what they're missing is the confidence piece, the liability piece. What happens when things go bump in the night? Will this fintech be here tomorrow? Will they be here next year if we embed them in a workflow? That's really, really crucial.
So are banks themselves the problem in this situation? Because I know obviously fintech founders, when they present, they're trying to get their point across, but banks, they're also very strict. They also have this way of thinking where innovation, they say they innovate, but it's also kind of, the proof is in the pudding where innovation is there, but it's not as advanced as it could be. So are banks also part of the problem?
Let's not beat up the banks. I think don't bite the hand that feeds you. In this case, I think banks don't really have an innovation shortage. They don't. They don't. But what they do have is an ownership shortage. What I mean by that is you can bring all the great ideas into a bank, but without the proper champions carrying those ideas, finding the proper workflows, embedding them, making it part of the real workflow in an organization, it's just going to remain a good idea. And while banks want to portray that to shareholders to remain sticky with large institutional customers, corporates, individuals on the retail side too, in the long term, it's something that they're trying to tackle. I think the fintechs trying to sell in, they're struggling right now.
So before you back a company
Yeah.
and selling into financial institutions, what are you looking for specifically?
Well, as an investor, it's a different lens to look through. We're really looking for repeatable distribution. We want to know that you have the right champions identified, as I mentioned, but we also want to know that you're actually embedded in the workflows that matter in an organization, and that this is a problem that you're solving for not just this one specific bank, but something that is you can lift and shift into all the banks, not just nationally, but globally. That's where the unicorn moment happens, when you actually look through the lens and see, well, is there a credible implementation path beyond, let's say, the innovation hub conversation? Can we graduate beyond talking with the ideas people in a bank? Can risk, compliance, security, can these folks buy into it? Because often it falls down in procurement. You can have the best conversation solving the real problems, but procurement, it just doesn't align. And back to the earlier piece around the champions, I would often argue you should take the elevator, not the stairs, in these conversations. So really getting the right, I would say, representative in a bank, getting them to understand what problem you're solving, and getting them to sell on your behalf in their organization is key, crucial, in fact.
All right, Mike, we have 5 seconds left. So really quick, for a founder that's watching this, what piece of advice would you give them when they're trying to sell to a bank?
I just leave it at this. Prove that you can solve real world problems for the customers of the bank for today and tomorrow. And then if you can survive the institution, that's the key.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your advice to founders, because that's definitely interesting, but also thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you here because you definitely bring a wealth of knowledge to the show.
Thanks so much, Michael. Thank you very much.